the thing that bothered people the most about this, other than just how horribly it's written and its sensibilities, its writing sensibilities, and its sense of humor, which is, I think, pretty terrible. Although, again, humor is subjective, but I didn't find anything funny. I don't think I laughed. I'm trying to think back to that show. It hurts me to think back, but I don't think I laughed or chuckled once. I think one of the biggest issues, perhaps the biggest issue, is that no one is likable. No one is likable in this show. Everyone is detestable to each other, and especially the character of Velma. Especially the character of Velma, voiced by Mindy Kaling. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to the next part of my show, and that is the worst TV shows of 2023. Now, I have to admit, I have not seen as many TV shows as I would have wanted in 2023. I just talked about my best TV shows 2023. Managed to put a top 10 list together and also an honorable mention, but sadly, there were just a lot of shows that I was unable to watch or catch up on. I know I will eventually watch the rest of Succession. I want to watch shows like Beef, but I was happy that I was able to catch a few shows before the end of the year, put the list together. And like for this category, as I was saying before starting this particular section, I am happy that I was not watching a lot of bad TV shows. I was able to watch more good, certainly more excellent, more good than bad this year. And so like this list really only has 3 shows that I honestly want to talk about. 2 that I had watched all the way through, and maybe I like certain elements about these shows, certain episodes. They still left me wanting. They still left me pretty disappointed, and also concerned for very concerned for their future and their potential future seasons. But there's really only one show that I thought that I saw this year that I tried. I think I watched half of it. I want to say I watched half of it. I reviewed some of those episodes, and it was awful. It was excruciating. Some will probably be able to guess what it is. It's on many other people's list, no doubt about that. But the first show that I wanted to talk about today, which I guess you could say is my third worst show of 2023. Not really, but it's a show that I was disappointed by, especially because I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons, and that's the Mandalorian season 3, which again. This is taking place after the events, both of Mandalorian season 2 and also the book of Boba Fett, where the Mandalorian, played by Pedro Pascal, or well, not really though. I guess I should asterisk. Yes, the Mandalorian played by Pedro Pascal. Maybe he does the voice of the character. I don't think he ever wore the suit this season. I have to say, I don't think he once put on that helmet. I don't think he was on set once. He voices the character, and I think like the grandson of John Wayne plays the Mandalorian, plays Din Djarin, and I think several other actors do as well. But Pedro Pascal, he plays the Mandalorian. Bounty hunter, traveling the galaxy, bringing in targets, hot or cold. He's trying to, I guess, redeem his past transgressions because, his weird Mandalorian cult is very upset. They removed his helmet and showed his face to his adopted son, Grogu, a.k.a. Baby Yoda. And he's got to go purge himself in the waters of Mandalore. Problem is, Mandalore is just a nuclear wasteland. It's a Holocaust because it was bombed by the Empire. And so he has to enlist the help of a fellow Mandalorian warrior, Bo-Katan Kryze, played by Katie Sackhoff, right? And I got to admit, I thought so much of Season 3, despite liking Season 1, Season 2. Not that Season 1 and Season 2 were perfect. They definitely had their flaws. But overall, I really enjoyed both of those seasons. But for me, Season 3 of The Mandalorian just felt so unfocused, unnecessary, and just inauthentically just manufactured. Although there were some highlights in the season, like I particularly liked Bo-Katan. Played by Katie Sackhoff. I mean, technically the season's about her. It's more her story than Din. Like, he kind of wraps up his arc in the first 2 episodes of the season. And then it's just all about her trying to redeem herself and trying to lead her people. I mean, the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, he became a supporting and even sometimes in a lot of the episodes, like a tertiary character in his own show. And I was like, I thought this was about him. And again, Baby Yoda, and this is the other frustrating aspect. Like, season 2 wrapped up with Baby Yoda going off of Luke Skywalker to train a Jedi. Like, you know, the Mandalorian, Baby Yoda storyline, their relationship, it came to an end. And I thought it was handled actually very well. And I was like, cool, but that doesn't mean that, like, Din Djarin's story ends here. He's going to go off. He's gonna continue to have adventures. He's going to continue to meet new people. And I thought, oh, that's going to be cool. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that. Like, hey, this chapter is over, but a whole new chapter is now going to open up. And I'm like, that's going to be cool. It's going to be almost like a completely fresh start. It's like, what are they going to do? And they just keep doing the same thing. Where not even, and the thing that's even so messed up is they literally took over another show, which was the Book of Boba Fett. Like, yeah, Boba Fett, whatever. He's King Conan, gangster, not really, whatever. Hey, let's bring back Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and he just misses his son. And they got to reunite at some point. That's what ends up happening. You have like 2 episodes of this. It feels like 2 episodes of that season. It might have been actually. It might have been 2 episodes where it's just focused on Din Djarin and Grogu and Baby Yoda and them reuniting. It's just like, but you just gave him to Luke Skywalker. It's like now Grogu's gonna have his adventures. He's gonna do his thing. It's like, why are you doing this? And that's the thing. Like at this point, Baby Yoda. Like, in The Mandalorian Season 3, Baby Yoda serves no purpose. No purpose in terms of character growth, no purpose in terms of storytelling. He is solely there to sell toys. He is solely there to sell merchandise. And he has been. He's been widely successful in the merchandise, and everyone's wearing their Baby Yoda t-shirts and having their little Baby Yoda plushies and the little Baby Yoda animatronics. He's cute, I agree. But he doesn't need to be there anymore. And the only reason why he's there, the sole reason why he's there, is because he's a marketing tool. And it just came across. It just bluntly came across to me, and it just made me start to resent him. I was just like, I don't want him in there. He's just there to be goofy. He's there to be goofy and cute. They gave him the body of IG 11 or whatever, and he's walking around. He's beating up stormtroopers. I'm like, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? And so much of the series was focused on Bo-Katan. And again, I like Katie Sackhoff as the character. She voiced the character in Clone Wars and Rebels and has played her in live action. I think she's done a great job despite some of the material that she's been given. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just do a show with her? Why is everyone taking over Din Djarin's show? It's so weird. It's like he took over Book of Boba Fett, and now Bo-Katan's taking over his series. And the other thing, too, is like so many of the episodes in this season just we didn't need them. We didn't need them, or so much of the series itself could have just been truncated over the course of, because how many episodes were there? Like 3, or no, excuse me. There were like 7 or 8, I want to say. I think there maybe have been like 7 or 8 episodes, right? And I'm like, I feel like you could have told this entire story like in 4. I feel like we could have skipped so much of the middle stuff and just done the first 2 episodes with Din Djarin, and then like the next 2 or 3, really 2, would just then be Bo-Katan and reclaiming Mandalore. Like, that's what all it could have been. Could have been a 4 episode. And if that's the case, then just do that. Don't have like 4 additional episodes of just filler. They don't mean anything. They're just you gotta have that there because you just want to have Baby Yoda do goofy things, cute things to get sell more toys. Then that's disappointing. That's really disappointing for me as a viewer. And like how the season like wraps up, it's like, all right, well, they're retired, they're hanging out on whatever the planet is that Apollo Creed rules. It's like, okay, cool. I guess their story's over. Now they're going to do a 4th season, which they may now do into a movie. Which I'm like, I don't know about that. I mean, at this point, don't do anything new if you don't have a good idea. I thought there was potential. Like, hey, this story is ending with Grogu and Din. Din's gonna, like, Grogu's going off. He's gonna be a Jedi, whatever. And now Din's gonna. There's a whole galaxy, a whole universe which he can explore and find himself and go through growth and change. And I think that's gonna be cool. But that experience that he had with that kid, that's gonna had an impact on him. It made him a better person. I think that's cool. But they're just regressing. We're just going back. Again, it's the whole complaint of Star Wars just feels like a neighborhood, not a galaxy. And yeah, and it was on full display. It was on full display in the 3rd season of the Mandalorian. And After that, even though there were some great moments, some great action scenes and things, there certainly were. It's like, this is just pretty cool, though. There was also scenes where this feels cheap. This feels like a television show. This doesn't feel like Star Wars, like, cinematic. Doesn't feel like a big space opera, sci-fi space opera, right? Fantasy opera. There are points that felt cheap, but I don't know. I'm at a point now. It's just like, I'd rather you not do the 4th season unless you have like a really good idea. But I feel like, no matter what, it's just going to be more of the same. It's going to be more just Din and Grogu, and I'm just like, I kind of don't want that anymore. Let's do a new series completely, or focus, or take those resources and add them to like something like Andor, which I am actually looking forward to. And that first season was excellent, so that's what I prefer. So yeah, I was very disappointed with the Mandalorian season 3, and then I guess moving on, technically my number 2. Or, again, another show that I was left disappointed by, and hey, we have a theme going, chat, Ahsoka. Ahsoka Season 1, and of course, this is a spin-off show of The Mandalorian. I guess you can also argue it's a spin-off of Star Wars The Clone Wars and also Star Wars Rebels, in which the character of Ahsoka came from. She's a creation of Dave Filoni. She was introduced in the original Star Wars Clone Wars movie, and has kind of grown into one of the most popular characters in the franchise. Certainly, I would say in the last 20 or so years, last 15 years, since her initial debut. Of course, her initial debut was rough, but I think over time and through multiple seasons, people really came to love that character. She was voiced by Ashley Eckstein here. She's played by Rosario Dawson, and this course takes place way after the events of Clone Wars and Rebels, and now she is an older woman, and she is on a quest to save characters from Star Wars Rebels, right, which was the anime show, which I actually really enjoyed. And, I was excited for this. I was looking forward to it because I'm like, I liked her appearance in The Mandalorian. I thought that was cool. And, of course, it sets up, she's going after Grand Admiral Thrawn, who's like one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. I really, really loved. I love Grand Admiral Thrawn. I loved how he was used in Rebels. But I had to admit to myself, chat, as I said in my reviews, by the time that the final credits roll for like the last episode of however many episodes we got, was it 8 episodes again? I was asking myself just like, what was the point of the series, honestly? I know it's called Ahsoka, right? You assume it's about Ahsoka, right? That's the point. It should be focused on the character. But at the end of the day, it was more of just an epilogue. It was an epilogue in reality to the Rebels animated series. It was more about just rescuing Ezra Bridger and bringing back Thrawn and I guess setting him up as a potential villain for this Dave Filoni Star Wars movie, which allegedly is happening. And Dave Filoni, of course, this is his series. Ahsoka's his creation. He has featured Ahsoka in many other adaptations before. Obviously, in The Mandalorian, and obviously in the series, of course. But there was just such a lack of stakes and drama in the show. You had a lot of the characters, and I noticed this of Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni has often said, George Lucas is the key. George Lucas, like, I went to the filmmaking school of George Lucas. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell. I can certainly tell. Because, and I think George Lucas is a great story man. I think what he has come up with for the Star Wars universe and the world building is great. I feel like he really struggles when it comes to dialogue. I think he really struggles when it comes to character interaction, chat. I think it's been like other people, other filmmakers and actors who have taken that material and like have made it certainly better, like a Lawrence Kasdan or Harrison Ford or any of the other people that in the original trilogy, that they added something of themselves to those characters, whether it was Mark Hamill or Carrie Fisher or Barry D. Williams or Frank Oz. Like I feel like they made the material better. Right. And when it came to this, like, it's clear that Dave Filoni is a fan of, or not just a fan, he loves George Lucas, and George Lucas had such an impact on the way he tells stories. But you look at the performances in the movie, everyone is so underwhelming. Everyone is so stoic, and it's very reminiscent of the way George Lucas directs actors in the prequels. There's just this flatness. There's this permeating flatness to so many of these episodes that that was frustrating to me. There were episodes that I liked. There was moments that I liked. There were characters that I really enjoyed. The great late Ray Stevenson was amazing as Balin Skull, a character that was created for the show. He was like, wow, he feels like he's adding so much of himself to this. And I was so excited for Thrawn, and they brought back Lars Mikkelsen to voice the character, and I just never felt, and even later on in those episodes, like, he felt flat. They never got to showcase, like, Thrawn he's considered to be like one of the greatest Star Wars villains of all time, even though, he was not created by George Lucas. He was a creation of Timothy Zahn in the Thrawn trilogy, what a lot of people view as the true sequel trilogy now, where he wasn't a Force user, he wasn't like a Sith Lord or anything like that. He didn't wield a lightsaber. He was a master tactician. He was an admiral. He spent years in the unknown regions conquering planets for the Empire. Came back after sometimes like, Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader are dead. Well, cool. I'm Emperor now. And he almost conquered the galaxy again. He almost conquered everyone. The New Republic's like, who is this guy? And I loved it. And it's never really shown in this series at all. They say that. It's like, oh no, we showed his brilliance. Like, I don't think he really did. And again, it's just this flatness. And like how a lot of these battle scenes are shown. The weird pregnant pause of Chad. This series is prego. This series got like 3 babies. That's how pregnant it is. I was like, God damn. Where people they would almost like wait. They would say their line of dialogue, and there'd be like it'll be like 3 beats, and then that person would talk. It's like, what are we doing? This is not natural, and that's what I'm saying. It's very reminiscent of the George Lucas style of character interaction, especially when it comes to prequels. And to me, it just tells me that Dave Filoni does not have the filmmaking chops to direct or oversee a live-action Star Wars TV show, and certainly not a film. Much like Lucas, I think he's a great idea guy. I think he has made some wonderful contributions to the Star Wars universe. With Clone Wars and with Rebels, a character like Ahsoka, finally showcasing the actually really interesting, good relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker that was just missing completely from the prequels. Like, he did that, and him and his writers did that, and he deserves a heaping amounts of credit. But when it comes to these live action things that he's done, he's also directed some of the weakest and worst episodes of like Mandalorian season 1. And I'm just like, I don't really want to see what he's gonna do with a film, which is gonna combine all these things. It's gonna combine Ahsoka in the Mandalorian and whatever the other ones are, Skeleton Crew, which we haven't even seen yet. And he's going to do his own weird version of the Thrawn trilogy, but it's only going to be 1 movie. And so I'm just like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it. And even though there were moments that I really liked in this particular season, there were so many things that left me wanting, so many things that I was disappointed by. I feel like this could have been something really good if you just gave it to someone else. If maybe he was a consultant, he was a producer, he was in the writing room, but you got to get someone in there. You need like a Lawrence Kasdan type, or you need like a Tony Gilroy to be like, I'm going to show you how people talk to each other like human beings. Like, there's so much. One of the great things about Andor is that yes, you had your Star Wars action, but you just had these great character moments, like the dialogue, which you don't often say in Star Wars. It was great. It was really, really good. I loved it. It was tense. It was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I love the conversations. Like, look at, even if you haven't seen Andor before, chat, just type in Stellan Skarsgård Andor, and his fucking monologue is going to pop up about sacrifice. And it is some of the best dialogue in a Star Wars thing ever. It's so good. And I was just like, I want some of that. We need some of that in some of these other shows, like Andor and Mandalorian. And I know people are like, I don't want everything to be like Andor. I'm just like, no, I agree. Not everything needs to be like Andor. But I think a lot of it needs to be like Andor now because of the state that we're currently in. So, yeah, Ahsoka, just much like The Mandalorian, just left me wanting. I was very disappointed and has to be concerned for the future of those seasons, chap. But it's not as bad. These two things are not as bad, as my number one. And this really is the one show I would say this is the worst TV show of 2023 that I've seen. This one was just like, I couldn't find anything redeeming about it. I thought a lot of it was honestly disgusting and mean-spirited. And that show is Velma. Velma season 1. And, this show is a a parody. This entire series is a parody of the original Scooby-Doo property. We're introduced to versions of the characters, that we've watched across the decades of various Scooby-Doo adaptations and shows, And I'll tell you this, when I did my reviews, I think I did like 2 or 3 reviews. I think I did like up to episodes like maybe 5 or maybe up to episode 6 or something. So I watched about like half of this series. And, I actually have no issue with the idea of taking a property that's been around for decades and kind of being deconstructive with it. That's often fun. And deconstructing it, whether it be in a film format or a TV format, that we've seen great success with those types of things. And there are plenty of like really good recent examples of that type of content, such like Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn series did that, and other shows like The Venture Bros, which actually finally just wrapped up with their animated movie. The thing with Velma is it doesn't really seem to actually be interested in being a deconstructive parody or a funny satire of the original show, which you can definitely have it be. There's so much material ripe for deconstruction in Scooby-Doo and things you can parody and laugh at. I think there is. That's actually a cool idea. The show is just immensely obsessed with observational humor and making just dated pop culture references over and over and over again. That is the show's true focus. And because that's its focus, it just makes every episode, most of the times, just boring to watch, and other times painful, grueling to watch. It's the kind of show that, and I hate this. I hate this thing where, and I hate it just like across all media, where, okay, we're just going to call out a variety of tropes in just modern storytelling or like mysteries in Scooby-Doo, and we're just like, okay, now that we called them all out, well, then we can just proceed to do all those things immediately. It's like, no, you can't get away with that. It's like they're trying to get away with it. It's like, don't worry, no, yeah. No, we'll just call these things out and be like, yeah, we know, and we're just going to do it. Like, that is lazy writing. That is lazy screenwriting. It's like that, hey, by staying in the obvious in a sarcastic way, we just have the right. We're free to do just that and indulge in all the things that people criticize bad storytelling. And I'm just like, no, you can't just do that. And the problem is just that's what happens, like every scene or every other scene in these episodes that I watch in the 5 or 6 or how many episodes that I felt like 5 or 6 episodes that I saw. And then the other thing is probably the thing that bothered people the most about this, other than just how horribly it's written and its sensibilities, its writing sensibilities and its sense of humor, which is, I think, pretty terrible. Although, again, humor is subjective, but I didn't find anything funny. I don't think I laughed. I'm trying to think back to that show. It hurts me to think back, but I don't think I laughed or chuckled once. I think one of the biggest issues, perhaps the biggest issue, is that no one is likable. No one is likable in this show. Everyone is detestable to each other, and especially the character of Velma. Especially the character of Velma, voiced by Mindy Kaling, who I've seen her in things that I've liked. I really liked her in The Office and, other shows and movies she's popped up, in throughout the years. And, she's the producer of this show. She's an executive producer of this show. She's the voice of the title character. She has a lot of creative control. And I just find it weird that she just made Velma just so despicable and mean, and where she would just no matter who she came across in the series, whether it be like these really awful bastardized versions of Fred, who is just he's a man baby. We've made fun of Fred and Scooby-Doo before, obviously his ascot and stuff, but here he's like a sociopathic man baby. Daphne is obnoxious and a bitch. So many other tertiary, secondary characters in Scooby-Doo are just made out to be just fools and are obnoxious, and they always present Velma as if she's in the right constantly, and she talks down to everyone. And it's just like, this is just not fun to watch. Like, I don't get it. It just feels like Mindy Kaling took the Scooby-Doo property and went, I'm going to use this as just a mouthpiece for everything that I've always wanted to say about the things, whether it be social media or my political opinions or anything else in between. And it's just like, but isn't this about Scooby-Doo? Isn't that what the show's supposed to like be about? Like, this is a parody? Is this like, how's this, any of this is related to Scooby-Doo like at all? Have fun with any of that. Like, I feel like you could really do like a really cool Scooby-Doo deconstructive like parody show. I think that'd be awesome. Make it a little more adult, and they're actually fighting like monsters and solving like really disturbing mysteries. Like, that's a cool concept. Like James Gunn famously, that's what he wanted to do when he originally wrote the Scooby-Doo movies. Live action films. That was his pitch. That's what he wanted. He wrote the R-rated versions. I was like, oh, that's gonna be awesome. And of course, then the studio went, we got to make it a regular, just Scooby-Doo thing. And we got the movies that we got. I was like, that's a good idea. And I don't know if that's like the idea she pitched, but that's not what we saw. And it's just, and I think it's just mean. It's just really, really mean. And the things that are said in it are just kind of disgusting, and awful. And it's getting a second season because I think a lot of people just hate watch this thing. They just hate watched it, and that's what increased its numbers and its viewership. And so we're getting a second season. I'm very curious if they're going to take any of that criticism to heart and actually address people's issues of the show. I doubt it. Mindy Kaling, based on what I've seen of her and what she stated, does not seem to be that kind of person to take criticism well. But man, I couldn't believe it. I heard how bad it was, and I was like, is it really that bad? I watched. I was like, oh yeah, they were right. They were right. Like, I know there's been like other bad TV shows this year. I just haven't watched it. I know people would say like The Idol, that's like the awful show, and the clips I've seen is like, oh, it looks pretty bad. But I don't know, like something like this, the fact that it just revels in being so mean, and just bastardized the Scooby-Doo property. Is sad. It's very disappointing. So yeah, for myself, chat, it's the worst. It's the absolute worst TV show of 2023. Nothing else I've seen from this year even comes close to it. But that's just my opinion. That's my very, very short list. Really, the other two shows, like, I don't hate them. I'm just really disappointed by them. This one, I'm like, no, I hate you, Velma. and I'm saying this, I like the character of Velma. I think a lot of people, I think in years since then, because she was like, oh, she was the dorky girl with my glasses. But I think since then, like, Velma's become like an icon. She's a cartoon icon. She's a sex icon. People are like, oh, Daphne, get out of here. Velma, hell yeah, that's my girl. And so it's like people like this character. So I don't understand like why you want me to hate her. Or maybe that wasn't the intention. Like, no, people are going to be on my side all the time when I'm fucking criticizing my stepmom and her pregnancy and the fact she uses an Instagram filter. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you saying? So, yeah, just all the way through. Just an awful, awful show. But again, that's just my opinion. I'm very curious. What are some of your worst TV shows of 2020? You've probably seen much more than I certainly have in terms of bad TV shows. Feel free to let me know.